I get the vibe that you're distant. There's something about you that's different. I see it in your eyes. Something isn't right. Tell me again what I'm missing. 'Cause you're fading out. We've been here before. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. Don't go through that door. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. It is a lie when you tell me that nothing is wrong, just leave it be. But I see it in your eyes. Something isn't right. Tell me again what I'm missing. 'Cause you're fading out. We've been here before. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. Don't go through that door. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. I will make it right. I will make it right. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll. 'Cause you're fading out. We've been here before. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. Don't go through that door. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. Tell me again. Tell me again.
Happy Tuesday. Hi, Rodney. How are you?
Fantastic, Mr. Elliott. How are you doing?
I'm peachy. Had a good weekend.
What
Took some.
what led to that?
We took some clients out, and took some clients out. Looked at a bunch of houses, And if that's going to be part of the story that I on the lead line for the title of today's broadcast is, and I won't be specific to the property or the people, but the principles are clear. These guys were able to save over $60,000 on the purchase of a property, and that's just something that just with one trick. And so, if you're a home buyer and you're watching this and that got your attention, I'm going to share with you here by the end of the program how we just used this one trick to save some folks over I think it was $65,000. So that's not chump change.
I like it. I seen it on the agenda there, and I was like, nice. And I'm glad to know that you have that secret, because I was like, I was wanting to know what it was.
Well, I bet you I'm going to tell you here in just a little bit, but not till last. So you have to hang out with us for a while. So anything exciting happening in your world these days?
Not too exciting. Had a pretty relaxing weekend. Played a little golf. Me and my boy is a member at our golf club, and me and my man Jay Peterson crushed everybody, and we won our flight. So got a second sleeve of balls for free or something.
Got it. Yep. Well, just want to welcome everybody back to the replay, and that's where most of our views come from, and that's completely okay. My name is Andy Elliott. I'm a realtor here in Williamson County, Tennessee. This is Rodney Wilds with First Trust, also in Williamson County, but we cover general information. We're not here to promote ourselves in that way. We really just want to give you information that can help you, and if you have questions after the fact, in a general way, maybe we can't handle everything like with shorelines and stuff, but in a general sense, we're pretty good with how real estate lending for Rodney and real estate business itself works for me. Feel free to give us a call, shoot us a text or an email. That's all in the description box below. We love to chat with you for free and for fun. That's all it is. We're just love to be helpful to you, and that's really our goal on that. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
You think we're good to go? Okay.
We're ready to roll.
Okay, here we go. I think what we're going to do here is, how we start this thing. Here we go. Yep. Oh, yeah. I love this. Do that. I actually recorded that myself, if you didn't know.
Did you really?
I did not.
Well, you got a banjo in your background or something, or guitars. Huh?
I do. I do. We're going to do Rodney's Rates. This is how we start every Tuesday. Rodney's talking to us about money.
All right, this is it. Let me give you a little update from yesterday afternoon. As you can see, yesterday afternoon, this one red candlestick right here, hurt our rates yesterday. It at, let's see here, 2:44 p.m. we received that dreaded alert to lock everybody in that was out there floating or just got under contract. And as you can see today, we have got a little bit of a rebound. Look here, we've gotten 38 basis points of a rebound today. And as you can see, it's almost went back up to the levels of where it was yesterday, or the worst, right? So nice little recovery day today. And the only thing I would add to that, let's see here, I'd like to see if the econ calendar here from our guys at MBS Highway, I think tomorrow, right, we have a pretty big meeting.
I think, and we're going to be laying bets later.
All right. I guess I still owe you. Well, my computer's sitting here thinking, but the Fed's discussing or are potentially going to move that tomorrow. We think so. That's it today. You can see it's a nice little recovery from yesterday, bouncing back. So I like it.
Well, and I'm gonna let you in on a secret here. Oh, it didn't do it the way I wanted it. Oh, oops. Sorry, Rodney. Hang on. Bing. For everybody who doesn't know, that whenever I disappear and Rodney's doing his thing, I vape. There's no nicotine in it or anything. And I told him one time, that's what I'm doing. He goes, well, every time you come back on, there's a cloud of smoke around your face, so we know. And I was going to have a big cloud. Well, I'll tell you, but once again, we're finding it's, okay, so Monday wasn't great, but things got back to what I'm going to call normal starting today. I mean, it's the same. We're getting a really consistent message, wouldn't you say, Rodney, about the rates?
Yeah, I think that they're, I think the whole world's projecting them to go down a little bit, and generally it's when everybody has the same consensus, it generally happens. You never know, but that I think that's what everybody's predicting.
Yeah, I mean, are you saying a self-fulfilling prophecy? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know about that. I just think that people think the worst is behind us. I feel like that,
okay, that's okay. Good.
Overall, the government maybe not trying to fix anything right now. With all the rate hikes and everything, now they're trying to keep off inflation and
yep.
So they're not trying to fix everything right now. So that's what I'm seeing is I think it's going to improve.
Yeah, and we've got a couple of things I want to mention. We'll do this in a little bit. So I'm going to put you on the spot, and I'm sure that we've talked about this before. That let me help me with this, Rodney. When it comes to real estate, now lending is anybody that knows me and anybody that's worked with me knows that if they have a lending question, I send them to Rodney. Period. Because I'm not a lender. Don't want to pretend to be one, and I surely don't want to be given out of date advice. And I think that there's sometimes a tendency for some agents, and this isn't a shot. It isn't really a shot. It's just my particular the way I do business. Sometimes they'll act like they know about lending to make themselves look a little better. I'm okay with being stupid when it comes to lending. I know the basics. I do that. But I'm smart enough to know I don't know that answer, so I go to Rodney. And I think that, it's not rocket science as far as real estate goes. Lending probably is rocket science. There's a lot of numbers in there. But as we go through this week to week, what's interesting to me is how what we're trying to find is the numbers and the market to be settled in and to be settled. And that's really what I'm talking about. And so if it seems like we've covered topics before, it's because there's new information every day. And so a topic it stays fresh. So it was a long diatribe, a long way around, too long probably, to ask you, Rodney, about. We hear about, and you were talking about this about a month ago, 2 months ago. Marry the house, date the rate. Didn't like that at all. The thing I was looking at is to buy now and refi later. Is that good advice? And this is where I'm coming to you. You're on.
All right. Well, I struggle with this one too. I don't think, first of all, you always manage your debt, right? Your house debt. You have a mortgage. I think it's always fiscally responsible to manage that debt. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean by if you're in a situation and you got a 6% rate and rates are 3.5%, and you can lower your payment, or you can lower your term, is what I like to do. I love when people take like a 30-year fixed and chunk it down to 15, because on a 30-year fixed rate, you pay so much principal those first year. Like that first year of payments is all principal almost.
Yep.
But when you go to a lower term, like a 25, 20, it gets better and better and better as each day goes along. So Of course, I do like the strategy of managing your debt. Um, and I think it's a good time to buy a house for a lot of people, like people who've been on the sidelines forever, or people who can afford and don't, and can bear the today's interest rate, and make the payment, and it doesn't kill their budget. Even with the thought in the back of their head is like, yeah, I can't wait till I refinance and get this down. But there's
Right.
no guarantees on that, right? So I don't like the idea of people buying this and they're using this as a strategy to get their payments where they want to be or where they really need them to be later.
Ah,
And the reason why is that a lot of people can get approved to buy for a lot more than they want to spend. So it means if you get somebody that doesn't, is feels like they're making, just makes a bad decision, they could be spending way too much of their income and be approved by, and run through the system and all that stuff. But it's still, even though they're approved, it doesn't mean it's a great, it's a financially responsible deal for them. Does that make sense?
it makes total sense. And I'd like to interject if I can on something here. And I don't know how to qualify this particular, what I'm going to say, because I've seen this hundreds of times over the time that I've been in business. When you said, generally speaking, people can qualify for more than they should purchase. I mean, they can qualify, but it may end up being a little bit uncomfortable for them. And I don't know how to say this, but when somebody hires a lender, or does a commitment letter with a lender, to be able to find somebody that you can trust enough to say, yes, you qualify, but you don't. And I don't know how you would phrase this in a regular situation. Yes, you can qualify, but you have no business spending that kind of money. Is there a perspective that you would say to a prospective buyer on how to instruct their lender how to act? Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, yeah, that would be a different comment, because the thing I try to get at is like, I want to understand where their goals, like where do they want their payment at,
Yeah.
right? That's what I'm trying to get at. Or I'm like, have you seen any houses that you would like to live in, that you would like to buy? Like, let me make sure this payment matches up with what you're thinking before we go out and fall in love with a champagne house, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's now it's their call whether it's too much for them to afford. See, I never know if it's like, because that's a personal number. And
Yeah.
I'll give you a perfect example. I got a good friend. He makes a fortune, over $1 million a year. His house is paid off, and he would not have a $2,000 or $3,000 house payment if it killed him. He would not have that. So to him, where he could afford a $20,000 house note, he don't want a $2,000 or $3,000 house note.
Right.
So a lot of that is personal, right? Is like, and then, we always use gross income. So we don't take the tax out. So you got to think, as soon as we look at somebody's income, they don't get 30% of what we're qualifying them for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Right.
if they're bumping up into the 50 ratio and then they got a 30% tax bracket, that person only has 20% of their gross income, residual. So
Right.
So yeah, we get into payments and things like that, but there's the piece about, it's hard to do it. I never tell somebody they can't afford it, like if the computer says that, right? I
Right.
never say, all I say is like, hey, this is way off your budget, or this is more than what you told me originally.
Right.
This is where you wanted to stay. And then we have that conversation.
Right. And I think probably that's really a good point. I mean, you can't say no to somebody that wants to go ahead and
Yeah, legally, right? Legally, if they are
yeah, and
approved,
I'm not,
we have to do that. Yeah,
and I think that that's part, that's what I just love about you guys is, and I mean this as a professional, that I can trust that my clients, and I'm sure that there's lenders across the country that work this way. I mean, I'm sure there are. I know there are.
there's a bunch of good ones in our area here. So,
Yep,
yeah,
you betcha. That I can trust that when somebody gets them into a house that they're okay with it, or at least if they're stretching a little bit, they've been told that, hey, that might be a little bit tight, but it's your decision. I'm all about disclosure. Disclosure, disclosure is everything to me. So when we're talking about, and you make a really, really good point. If you're talking about, if the phrase buy now and refi later comes to mind because you want to just get it done and you're counting on the refi later, which we all expect that would be the case, but can't promise that. I think that's a fair statement. Right. If you're counting on it, I think this is a repeat of what you just said. If you're counting on a few months down the road to refi and lessen the pressure financially, that's not a good strategy, right? That's what.
Correct. Yes. Right.
Yeah.
And the only thing I'll add to this, the other piece I don't like to it is that I've heard all this, all these comments and what they're promising to do is give you discounted fees later. Well, it's like, these fees are, or, the lender fees aren't very much, right? The lender fees are a small portion of the pie usually. It's mostly, mostly all the recurring fees that take place whenever you record and have an attorney and title, escrow accounts, all that. I didn't like the fact that they were saying, "Oh, well, we'll waive a fee if you come back to us, 2 to 3 years from now." And I wanted to just say, "Hey, look at those. Look up at that person. How is their job longevity? You know what I'm saying? Is like, have they been at that company enough to where you think in 3 years they're going to come back?" And that kind of thing is offering these deals to come back because there ain't no free deals. They come out with that where I was like, we really don't want to participate in that. I'm like, we're not. There's no free deals. I mean, you can't guarantee somebody a discount when they come back later.
You're saying this goes on just to keep people on the hook? Is that what this is about?
I think it's just a strategy to get a buyer to buy today, right?
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking. But if a buyer is ready to buy today, I'm all for every single discount known to man today to use. But the promise of something later isn't a good financial decision to base anything on.
Yeah. I think that probably the rule of thumb should be, and this is just my thinking. I mean, I stay out of it. Again, if it's lender questions, if it's money questions, that's just none of my business. It's enough of my business to say you need to talk to Rodney and Jordan about that. That's not my strength. But if somebody's going to go out and buy a house, and we just experienced this recently, if you're good to go now, then buy your house. Don't just go ahead and buy a house. Because things like this sounds like you said, what do they call that? Minimalizing things. You can buy something for $1,000 but make payments for $8 a month. Isn't that what that's called? Minimizing. So you're still spending $1,000, or now it's $2,000 over a longer period of time. It just sounds like a sales gimmick to me. That's all I'm saying. If you're good to go and rates drop and you get to refi, hey, that's cream on top.
Yeah, I agree. It's I'm not crazy about it, but it's not probably the worst strategy ever, because it is, if you look at the market, it's like everybody's trying to do what they can to try to generate some more deals going. So I get it, but I'm not, it's just kind of one. It's just it was like I've seen some good ones that we've jumped on the bandwagon, but this is one that kind of personally I've stayed away from, just because I think you always need to manage your debt, whether it's a car loan, student loans, a house loan. You've always got to manage your debt. So
yeah. Maybe the last thing we could say about it, at least from my side, would be, is the buy now, refi later good advice? My strong sense is that just depends on your situation, period.
I agree.
Case by case. So
the buy now is the most important piece. If you can figure that one out, figure it out if you're ready to buy now, then that's what you need to decide on. That other piece of that sentence, you can just throw in the trash.
Yeah, just throw it in the trash. And when we end this program today, I'm going to show you the market being what it is. This is pretty cool stuff, actually. It couldn't be simpler, but it takes resolve. Anyway, so the next thing that I wanted to talk about, okay, Rodney, another bank another bank bites the dust. Went
down in flames, didn't it?
Yeah.
It didn't go down in flames. J.P. Morgan just come in and scooped it up.
And what did they get? What did he get out? Jamie Dimon's doing pretty good these days.
The article actually says that it was a good move for J.P. Morgan and their shareholders. So it must have, I like that. It was like the government kind of back in the day, reminds me a little bit of that Countrywide deal where they made Bank of America take over Countrywide, right?
Yeah.
So I think the government stepped up and said, "Hey, won't you take these guys over for us?" And I'm sure they cut them some tax, whatever, made the deal good for them to do that. But looks like it works out for everybody, the customers of that bank and everybody.
The way the way some of those guys phrased it, I was watching on the news earlier today. The government invited them to participate.
Yeah. I don't want to assume anything, but I could be like, if I was a regulator and you're Jamie Dimon, I'd be like, hey, Mr. Diamond, those 5 things that we've been working on and I've been a pain in your butt about? Let's take care of that in one swoop here.
They're on a like initial name basis. JD, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Yeah, but I think it's good. It saved a lot of jobs. All these customers still have their money in the bank. The JP's, how good Chase has been solid since a million years. I mean,
and it looks like, with him taking over, there's no depositor at risk, right?
No, that's what I said. They're all the depositors, heck, and all the employees. I think they kept all these branches open. I think they opened today under Chase.
Yeah, I bet you
they may have opened yesterday or something. Yeah,
I bet they beat the sign change. It's probably a piece of paper on the door. Used to be, and
yeah. I'm not. I'm a little. I'm not sure if we're done with the bank issues because honestly I think there's a lot of commercial debt out there that could be playing a bigger role coming down the pipe. I'm not huge into this. I'm like you, Andy. I try to stay in my lane. My mortgage-backed security stuff that I use that we show when I do the rates. That's my service I use to give me all my information. And so, but I have heard a lot. There are concerning numbers about some commercial stuff coming down the pipe.
Yep. Well, and I kind of I have a good friend that's like into the commercial thing. And that's, again, I'm licensed for it, but I wouldn't be responsible to try to do that. It's not my deal. Like you said, stay in my lane. But it's my understanding that office space vacancy is way up across the country. And it used to be that commercial real estate was like gold. It was stable and, you had plenty of money coming in when that just, remote working changed the rules on that. But I heard something, and maybe you haven't heard this, but it was pretty interesting about the way they measure metrics in the cities, and that's with cell phone usage. And they said, like San Francisco is down 70% during the business day, during the week, of cell phone usage. That's how many people are not going downtown, and that translates into office workers.
Oh wow, yeah, I never heard that. How
Yep.
they? I can tell you in this area, we moved to this building in we signed a new lease that, as you can see, my decorator still hasn't gotten anything behind me. But I
But
promise,
it's
Andy,
clean.
hey, I've got like 5 pictures over there, and but anyways, we there was in this area right here. There's over in Maryland Farms. You know how that's a pretty big
Oh,
office
yeah.
complex area.
Hmm.
There was over 1 million square foot for lease.
Wow. For
And,
lease.
yes, and it was so we had the pick of the litter of a sublease because we knew this is going to be a temporary space for a year or so for us. So it was just like hey, every building we went in, it had empty offices with furniture that we got to choose from.
God. And for anybody that knows me, interesting, a circle of life kind of thing. Rodney's office is the office I started in real estate back in 2004. I mean, I went to visit him. I was like all weepy. I remember, I remember
Yeah,
those days.
I don't know. I don't know how many suites are in here, but it's only a 2-story building that they just redid, and it's
It's,
yeah. I mean, but for 1 million in this area, it's like wow.
that's a
That's
lot of
a
square
lot of
footage.
space. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what your point is that's going to, for any banks that are counting on commercial real estate in a portfolio stashed away someplace, they're sweating. I
Yeah,
would,
or developing of it. I mean, some of these buildings, a lot of these buildings are just being finished when all this, that COVID stuff starts. So they're just sitting there, half of them empty.
yeah,
But
yeah. So that's something that we got. And I've been seeing, it's an interesting topic, and I've been seeing a lot of pushback more and more from, excuse me, from CEOs. I wish I could remember exactly who it was. It was a heavy hitter. I think, I can't remember. But they were really making a noise about we got to get people back in the office because you just do. I mean, human nature being what it is, some people do great working from home, and some people do better with the synchronicity being in the office. And I think that CEOs are, well, I know Elon Musk is pretty clear on it. If you
mhm.
don't show up, you're fired. I think that's his thing. Anyway, so that's an interesting, but I think that more to come. I bet there's more to come. And if you
Yeah,
looked at the stocks today, I was watching the Business Channel, and if you look at the bank stocks today, it is all red. Well, not all, but mostly red. Not, it's spooky. Of course, that's going to happen the day after a receivership or however that works. So
yeah,
here's the next question. Lay your bets. I wish I had one of those green visors.
yeah.
The Federal Reserve, this is one article, CNBC. The Federal Reserve is expected to hike rates one more time. What that means for you. So, doesn't that come, is that this week?
Yes, I wasn't sure if it was tomorrow. I,
So,
yeah, let- I think it's tomorrow. Let me see if I can pull up my calendar again. But yeah, it's what are they doing? I don't think we need another rate, but who knows? I mean,
well, but I didn't get to send this one to you, so I'm gonna plead guilty on this one. I've picked up another article that says in CNBC, what it says is they're expected to hike rates there, and what they're calling for is 0.25, a quarter of a point. That's what these guys are saying. But as I showed you, I'm gonna pull this up so you can see. I think this is the one. Remember we were talking about how everybody's got a different perspective on the market.
yeah,
pessimistic, optimistic, mixed. I don't know. It's like people are just all over the place. That's why you have to take all of this kind of information with a grain of salt until it happens. But so they're saying a quarter of a point. That's what CNBC's on Alpha network, Seeking Alpha. It says that they're predicting that the feds are going to cut it tomorrow. So we've got.
Yeah, I mean, you need, that, I mean, that, I haven't heard that, but
That's
that
what.
would be surprising.
Yeah, that's what they're suggesting, and it says economics one. Here's what they say: Economics 101 would suggest the Fed may hike rates to the range of 5% to 5.25% because of inflation is arguably still too high. We agree it is, but boy, is it coming down. The Fed's thinking will not only be informed by inflation, but also politics, financial stability, economic growth consideration, and reflecting on recent stress in the banking system. And that couldn't be more raw. And they wrote this yesterday, couldn't be more raw than that.
Yeah.
Because those rate hikes are part of the banking issue. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, I mean, in my very simplistic, my view on it is like, right. I mean, if they're getting money from the Federal Reserve at that 5% or whatever the rate is, that means that if the bank is going to give it out, they take it in. That means they got to make more than 5%, right? So,
Yep.
I mean, that's you're creating a difficult task for the bank to utilize that money.
And what do they say about, poo? It trickles downhill, and I mean it ends up
Right.
with the customers, and the whole thing falls apart when everybody starts feeling uncertain about their money being safe. Because who wants to open up your account and go with zero? What?
Yeah. Or not have the ability to withdraw, out of that bank anymore. I mean, thinking the bank's going to go under or something. So,
Oh man! And to see that on the news, and so people start pulling it, and that's where that run comes from, and that's where JD. I'm going to just we're in first name basis now. Me and Mr. Diamond. JD, if you're watching, love you, man. This is actually something he could see. It just occurred to me.
we should invite him on.
Jamie, yes, give us some insights on this. But I mean, that's the bottom line is if people start getting uncertain, they're going to start pulling their money, and that's where this stuff starts falling apart. So
If a bank is in solid shape and that happens, I don't see them going under, right? I think they receive some help, and it would, that would dissolve itself out. I think this other bank, I haven't researched a lot, but I think this other bank had deeper issues to get them in the spot.
Yeah. Well, it's I've heard people say, well, banks don't have enough cash to cover the deposits. Well, yeah.
They're never supposed to, right?
There never was,
that's right.
How do you think they're making money? They're loaning it out to the next guy. That's and they never did.
Yes.
And so, I mean, that's the banking system. And so that's why it depends on what's that called, the full faith and what's the term? Can't think of that. The full faith of the banking system. That's why we just got to be, it's going to be okay. And JD, Feds, everybody, they're starting to figure out a pattern now. I mean, they can I bet they can smell when another one is, getting in trouble. And I learned something else this weekend, that when they take over banks or they do this receivership or however that works, I guess receivership is that right? Is that a proper term?
Yeah, that's definitely a term they use when they're going through I don't know exactly what legally that means, but it's at some point in time they're taking it over. Yes.
But they do that over the weekends on purpose. They do that, so I guess it's so that
the government works on the weekends, right? I mean, they got one job, they got one department that works on weekends out of the whole government, I guess.
All right. So we're going to lay down my bet, and you don't have to bet, but I'm gonna bet that the Fed does raise the rate a quarter of a point, because it seems to me that they've got inflation. It seems to me, what do I know? I'm an idiot, on the run. And I bet you that's the banking thing is important, but I bet you that was covered relatively easy with JD and those guys. So Corporal, what do you think?
I agree with you. I think they'll probably raise them a quarter this time.
Yep.
Now, the thing I don't like about is that, you see the credit cards debt or in rates are the credit card rates are at all time high right now. And in that part of and outside of the tax refund to pay some of the consumer debt down, that's been going backwards for a minute, our debt, national debt, credit card debt has been going up. So, yeah, I don't like this extra rate being on those credit cards. So, but it's the same thing as stressing the banks, stressing people, stressing the banks, same way.
Yeah, yeah, and isn't that the whole idea is to slow spending down? That's what it is, and boy,
Long
that's
story
gonna.
short, yeah, I agree with you that they'll raise it a quarter.
Yeah, but I'll bet you if things maintain without things falling apart, I bet next month, I bet you, or not next month, or whenever they do the rate change again, I bet it is either zero or goes down the next time. I bet you. That's my bet. So let's cover some less weighty topics if you want, if you don't mind, Rodney. Do you know what the 5 reasons millennials are buying homes these days are? Do you know what those 5 reasons are?
I would say one has to be investment.
Yeah, that would be part of one. Um,
Genius.
yep. So building equity, pretty smart. That's pretty smart. We've got a change in the life stage. You're moving out of the mom and dad's house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, what are the ages of millennials between? To look that up, but I think that
29 and 40 or something. 20,
something like that. It's
40,
43 yeah. And the next one is stability and settling down, which is a cool thing to see. I've worked with a lot of folks that do that. Rise in home values. Now that is important, but it's certainly slower than it was, lately, in the last year or so. And the last one, which I really like, and I got a graphic for that, is wanting to make somewhere mine. I thought that was really good. Building equity, changing life stage stability, wanting to have a place of my own. I'm telling you, I've had some buyers recently that where they were just looking at houses and sort of drinking it all in, that kind of stuff, and all of a sudden they got super active over the past few days. And the reason was they just got notification that their rent was going to go up by a huge amount. A huge amount.
Yeah.
I won't say a number because I don't know it. But usually people are moved to action. And I'm not laughing because it's funny. It's just, that's what gets people going.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, and you throw in having to live with a father-in-law or a mother-in-law, something like that. That tends to prompt them too.
Yeah. Everybody eats together on Sunday nights. That's the
Hey,
rules.
that prompts the mom and dad too. They're like, I don't know what the hell we got to do. We're gonna get these kids out of here.
That's right. So those are the 5 reasons millennials do. All right. So let's just I got a quick story for you and we'll finish up. Let's do one other. These are looking pretty good. The inspection appraisal, I think that's pretty easy. What do you think about that power of the pre-approval, Rodney?
It's a standard in our area. I couldn't imagine people that don't do this. When you're submitting your contract, you need you need a letter from a lender saying you've done your due diligence ahead of time, and it's you're on your way to getting a loan. So
Yeah.
Yeah, the power of it. I mean, it's the power of it should be getting your offer accepted or not. The power of it should be. I don't even know if a good real estate good realtor's going to work with you if you don't have one.
Right.
And it just makes sense. That, you don't put the cart before the horse.
Right.
Um,
And you know what you can afford. You look better to the seller. And for anybody that may not know, well, why would you? But in the real estate profession, as a realtor, when you get ready to submit an offer, there's almost always offer instructions that you have to abide by in order to submit an offer. And I have never seen one ever that number one wasn't a pre-approval letter or a proof of funds letter for those with cash.
right.
And
Yeah.
and so in order for if there is a buyer saying I don't need that yet, let me just tell you behind the scenes, yes you do, because if that's not included with the offer submission, there's a high chance that the listing agent can and will suggest to the seller, well, I don't know if these guys are actually ready and able to buy. You
Right.
know? And isn't
And-
that's the punchline?
Yeah, and I get some of it. You have a lot of people that are affluent. They know they can buy that house. They may even have the cash to buy that house in their pocket, but the seller doesn't know that.
Correct.
And it's not anything personal. It's not anything out of the ordinary. It's a document that's provided so your offer looks the best it can possibly look.
And I'm gonna let you in on a little human nature thing that like it or not, in real estate as a realtor, we're working with people. I mean, that's what it is. We're working with people to buy and sell houses. And over the years, I'm just telling you this for anybody that's thinking about this pre-approval stuff. If you're working with an agent and they push back on this almost to the point of maybe being a little bit demanding about a pre-approval letter, let me tell you what happens to us is lots of times, and it's happened to me lots of times over the years, somebody will insist, I've got plenty of money, I'm ready to go, I've got all the finances down and together, and it's a head fake when they really don't have a clue about their finances. I know this sounds harsh, but I'm telling you, it's nice that you know that you have tons of good resources, but you still have to prove it, because we've been told so many times that they're ready to go and they're not. They don't actually know what it takes to be ready. So just saying, there's a reason that people push back,
Yeah, that's really like I said, it's not personal. It's not personal on the one that's barely scraping to qualify. And it's not personal to the one that really doesn't need to look at their credit or have anybody check them out because they're so good they could buy it at closing. But it's not for you. It's to. I tell my people all the time. Hey, we go out and we talk to people. We want business, and we're. But once we get that business, you've got to put on your hat to help that customer get through the process and not
Yep.
just tell you anything they want to tell you. Like somebody to tell me that, oh, well, I'm solid. I really don't need an approval letter. And I'll be like, yeah, I get it. And then I explain to them why they do need it. And it's like part of the process. So it's my job to educate them and get them down this road, not
Yeah.
to just take whatever they say and let me try to beat my head against this seller over here and not get a deal done.
Yeah. And I know. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to step on you.
Yeah.
I absolutely get it, because I went out to buy a car, and they don't know that they didn't know. So everybody that I would talk to, I have to go through a process. I didn't have to get a loan for it or anything, but I had to tell them that we're good to go, So,
Yeah.
but I do. My point is, I understand how it can be a little irritating if you. I get it, But let us help you through that, and we'll make it easy for you. The letter is easy. It's easy. So here we go. It's story time. I wish I had story time music. I probably do, but I don't. I gotta do it. So what I wanted to share with you guys was, and I've been telling Rodney this and on this program for months and months and months. Here's a story about how some clients of mine were able to save $65,000 on the purchase of a home. And I've been around long enough, and Rodney and I have been talking about things that isn't a self-congratulatory thing. It's just when you're familiar with a market, meaning real estate, and you have a good sense in it, you can trust your instincts. That's what I'm getting at. And Rodney's been saying for months, and I've been agreeing with him, that the market in terms of pricing, house prices, things like that, is going to be dragging along. I'm going to call it the bottom. We don't know if it's the bottom, but we're going to call it, the lower end of things here for the rest of this year. The proof of that is the home values are not escalating much at all. They're expecting, on the high estimates, 4% during the course of the year. On the low estimates, negative 1.5. We're talking about median home prices staying flat for a long period of time. And we're talking about $65,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
I'm telling you, that's a lot of money in one chunk. It really is. And so if this is a cautionary tale to home sellers, what's happening is because inventory is so low on housing, you would think that would force prices up. That's supply and demand. When supply is low, the prices go high. That's just normally what happens, right? But because interest rates, and we talked about this, is a little bit high, in some cases it's unattainable for some folks. Large percentage, 29% of what were first home buyers, they're not doing that until things moderate a little bit. But low inventory with low numbers of buyers in comparison. And so the demand is low. Home sales has dropped off it's the lowest it's been in a long time. What I'm getting at is, if you're looking for a house, there's going to be just one exception. I got to make sure I put this right.
You keeping me on the edge of my seat. Come on, man.
You're going to notice if you're and especially if you're in the sweet spot between, say, 350 and 5 or 450 and 650, 700. That's a sweet spot. That's where the majority of homes are that are being sold. If you're looking for that kind of property and it's not weird with like 7 bedrooms or something, standard 3 or 4, you're going to have a lot of options. But what's going to happen is there's a lot of those properties that are going to have high days on market, meaning they were listed and they haven't sold for an extended period of time. Over the last couple of years, houses were sold by the time the sign got in the yard and the agent got to the car, there was offers coming and there was phone calls coming. Those days are gone. So what you want me to tell you is, how do you save that $60,000? When you're looking at properties, look at properties that suit your needs. You like the way they look, all that kind of stuff, but they're 30, 60, maybe 90 days on the market. When that happens, the seller, who has probably overpriced it, and that's what I can hear somebody saying, well, they're overpriced anyway. Well, that's right. That's why they're not selling. However, when prices start to go down, they'll go below what they would have had they been priced properly in the first place. Here's what I'm trying to say. Let me explain that. If a house was listed at $700, but it was actually valued at $630, if it was listed at $630, it would have sold at $640 plus. If it's $700 and it's too high, when they drop the price at $630, now when the buyers are coming to look at it, they're saying, things been on the market 100 days, I'll give you $600 for it. I'm telling you, that's the way, that's human nature. That's the way real estate just works. And in this case, this house, was perfect for these folks had been listed, I can say the number because it doesn't matter, 685. And the day, it just so happened that the day we went looking, they had dropped it to 625. And we got it for less than that. Now, what I'll tell you is, remember from the buyer side, because you'll want to negotiate that even further, right? I mean, that would be human nature. Again, you want to get it less for what they're offering. Remember that from the seller's perspective, they just gave away $60,000 from, am I doing that math right? 685 to 625, is that right? 60?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yesterday, they just gave away 60. And so when a house price is high days on market and they lower the price, you kind of have to get after it. You can't wait, because if they've done their homework and they've priced it probably where it should have been anyway, that's going to pull buyers out of the woodwork. Because as Rodney has said time and time and time again, that a house that's priced properly is getting multiple offers. And that's my lesson here is, don't go after a house that's been listed and it's one day on the market. Don't do that. The exception is, if it's the house of your dreams and there's just no questioning that, I'm telling you that the house of your dreams is the house of your dreams, and you can't do anything about that. And you know what? You just have to buy it.
You just go get it. Yeah.
You just go get it. If it's for whatever that means to you.
If your wife has to have it, if it's perfect for you, whatever the reason is, you have to have it. You have to have it. You know, that's just a go get it, move on. Yeah.
Yeah. And the price is the price. But for everything else, wait. And that's what here's the trick, is being patient. Being patient. Look at homes that have high, I don't mean high, but that have higher days on market than normal, because those sellers are going to be, it's still on the market because they have to sell it. If it's vacant, that's even a bigger sign. They've moved on. They're paying a mortgage on an empty house. And so they're highly motivated. I got to, and if you can give them a couple of negotiating tips, if you can get a seller that is under pressure because it's been high days on market, whatever that means in your market, because it can be different, and the house is vacant, if you can sweeten the deal, not with money, but with time, you're going to find yourself a very interested seller. Because what we did is we shortened the closing time frame, because all they want is out.
Right. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, nice work there. I mean, yeah, that's I hadn't thought of that. So following up on that, like when you're saying when we go out, you find one that fits somebody's needs and it's been on the market for a minute. Now, I guess you when you go to them, especially right after they lowered it, you're saying that right after they lower it, they're subject to accepting an offer even lower, because they're already at that point where they're desperate and want to get rid of it. Or maybe not desperate, but they're definitely wanting to get rid of it.
Well, desperate is too strong a word, but they're motivated.
Yeah.
They're motivated. But what my caution is that when a house price is lowered, if it's not a lot of times, again, here a little peek behind the scenes. A lot of times, an agent will tell a seller there's a minimum trigger on most MLSs, that you have to lower it $1,000 plus, I think, to get it to activate auto search. So when you lower it X amount of dollars, it sends it out to all the people that match that search criteria. And that's why you'll see a $900,000 house and it'll be lowered by $1,000. That's all they're doing, is they're tripping that search trigger.
More activity looking at it.
Yeah, and it doesn't work. And if somebody lowers it $5,000, that's not going to work. But when you, like this particular house, they lowered a big chunk, there's a signal. They got to go. They got to go, because they dropped out a chunk. My point is, when that happens, you know for sure that there's other people who've been looking at that type of house, and it's next to a park and it's next to a school. Yes. Do you think other people didn't want to get that? Heck yeah, they did. So when we submitted the offer, I put a 6-hour, what I call a string on it. I put a 6-hour acceptance string on it. We submitted the offer. We need an answer by tonight.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It was exciting. I was so glad to see it just all worked, and it just, because they were like, "Are you sure that they're gonna?" I said, "Yeah." All the signals are there, and I mean,
Yeah, that's years of experience right there, helping them like that. Look,
and
Angie made a comment here. Jump on this comment. I don't know if you got the like MLS for Chattanooga, but yeah, I mean, Angie, I tell you what we'll do. We're gonna have to drive him up there and get him to do that for you.
that's what we're gonna have to do. And before we leave this subject, I was so excited to share that because, I mean, if you're not in the business, you don't know how that stuff works, and it's just that's my favorite. Oh, that's my favorite part.
I feel like I don't know. I don't maybe giving him too much credit, but I feel like a shout out to Mr. DeSelms for probably parlaying that trick for 20 years ago to you. I mean,
100%.
I mean, Mr. DeSelms was a inspiration to a lot of us. I mean, he was.
Terry DeSelms, real estate 101, baby, and then it goes all the way to PhD.
Yeah,
but he would handle that so graciously. He was God, love that guy. But I wanted one little quick shout out to Jordan White, who was able to get us a pre-approval letter like fast. We needed one to go,
awesome.
and so it was First Trust, Rodney and Jordan. Thank you guys for making that happen. It's a teamwork. It's teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. Anyway, so I think that was fun. I like talking about that stuff, man.
Yeah, that's I like hearing those success stories. It's especially coming off of that's I haven't had great stories about negotiations and things like that very often just because of the market we've been in, right? Everything's just been now it's back to some good old real estate boots to the ground work right there, getting it done.
Yeah, it does, and it worked out, And I'm not celebrating. I'm celebrating the win for the buyer, but I'm very compassionate to the seller too, because it's just that's the market, and hopefully everybody got what they wanted or close to it. Isn't that what a negotiation is, when nobody gets exactly what they want?
Well, I mean, we, I only work for one person. I don't work for both of them. And if the seller agrees to sell something, they just got to be happy with it. I mean, if I agree to sell something, I'm happy with it. So, I mean,
too.
We're here to do the best we can for one person. That's the whole thing we've talked about, that dual agency.
Yep.
How can you fight for somebody and already have an agreement with the other person,
In a situation like that would have been impossible. And I know that any brokerage I've ever worked with is we separate the dues, even if you as an agent, because there's some that don't. I can't play that game. I won't work both sides. I'll let somebody else have the other side, because that's.
It can be done, but it's just it can be done in a lot of cases. But like this case right here, that would have never been possible.
That would never been impossible. So you're going to have any big plans for this week, Rodney?
We have we got some stuff going on at the office. We've had a great team join us out of Hendersonville. we're excited about those guys joining us. But the market seems to be doing well. Our customers, they're getting contracts, and we're getting them locked in, and things are going good. Things are going really good. Just it's. I told my assistant the other day, Jordan. I said, we're never happy. I was like, just get used to it. I said, it's always too busy, too slow, too this, too that. I'm like, man, let's just enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Rodney, what a pleasure. This was super fun today. Super fun. Any final thoughts before we waltz on out of here?
No, thanks for Angie and our guests for watching today, and people on the replay. Holler if you got any questions.
Yep. Hey, Angie, I think you've got my email. It's in the description. Shoot me an email and we'll chat about your situation. I promise I can fix you up. Promise. Pinky swear. Promise. Rodney, thank you so much. And I will see you, I'm sure as anything, next Tuesday. All right.
You got it, brother. See you.
Man. See you.